Did everyone eat? Okay, great, great. I want to thank the food servers who did a great job. Great platter, amazing. Very good, very good. I love the fruit salad. I hope there's some more left over later on. I would love some bowl of fruit salad later on. I hope we didn't eat too much, because you know when you eat too much, you get a little lazy, and we don't want nobody dozing off over here. We still got some more talks that we want to give, so we want nobody sleeping on the talks. So our next presenter, I believe, missed his true calling as a sports commentator. He's intelligent, he's articulate, and extremely creative. The only thing is, he only has commentary whenever the Buffalo Bills lose, which hasn't been much this year, I gotta say that. Yeah, okay, I forgot Bills Mafia, okay. He's sure to find me whenever they lose and give me this play-by-play breakdown of what went wrong. But what's interesting is that I can never find them whenever they win. I can never find them when it's over. But one thing we both can agree on is that we've utilized our time in prison, 54 years in total. Him having served 35 years and myself 19, to the best of our abilities. Please welcome to the stage, Michael Rhynes.
By a show of hands, how many of you are pet lovers? All right. How many of you are dog lovers? How many of you have had a hard and frustrating day at the job and couldn't wait to get home? Okay. Putting your key in the door, you are greeted by your best friend with loving eyes and a quizzical tilt of the head to discern your mood. Once your friend has determined that you need cheering up, his tongue comes out, he jumps up and down and wags his tail, signaling that you are loved no matter what kind of day you've had. I'm not allowed to have a dog. Can you keep a secret? I have a dog. After a hard and frustrating day at my program assignment, I head back to the cell. The gate is cracked, and there my best friend is. Down, boy. How many of you believe that global warming is affecting our environment? What if climate change is more personal than we imagined? Ponder this. With the summers getting hotter and hotter, everyone is trying to find ways to cool off. Some of us retreat to beaches. Some of us retreat to backyard pools. Most urban kids turn on fire hydrants. When my blood begins to simmer and my body rages, my temperature reaches a level of Fahrenheit 451. My fight and flight response is stuck on fight. I retreat to the pond in my cell where the water is serene and clear as a bell. There are frogs on lily pads and cattails swaying in the breeze. Fish playing tag and tadpoles playing leapfrog. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. Squirrels are a-playing. And butterflies are flirting. And there's a duck. Quack, 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 quack. Oh yeah. And my dog, he's over there sunning himself. Instead of plunging in, I stick my toe in. Ooh la la, that's cold. So I weighed in. Through the use of imagination, acting, and yoga, and Qigong, I found a way to recover from the traumatic experience that is prison. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, who gonna get this dog poop up your dog left on the stage, man? Come on, man. And I swore I heard a duck backstage, too. I swear I thought I heard one. Our next presenter puts the THY in healthy. He's an avid health enthusiast and possesses a joyful and positive outlook on life. Please, let's welcome Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon, everybody. My talk today is about taking an inward step to happiness. About the mid-1980s to late 1980s, I was working in a clinic in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And unfortunately, with that population, there was a high rate of alcoholism. And to better understand their needs and how to meet them, I started going to Al-Anon. And there was this one lady at this meeting that I'll never forget. The meeting started off with a young lady who, from the beginning of the meeting, was talking about how miserable her life was because of her husband's drinking. And she pretty much talked through the whole hour that we were meeting. But getting toward the end, another lady, I'll call her name Doris, the younger woman I'll call Jane, Doris said to her that she was sorry to hear about her life being the way it was, because she herself had experienced it when she was younger. But she said, you know, if you're unhappy, it's your own damn fault. We were all kind of surprised to hear that because we felt sorry for her, and it seemed like the person with the problem wasn't her, who just wanted a happy marriage, but her husband, who was drinking. But Doris continued. She said, your husband may have an alcohol problem, but your happiness is your responsibility and no one else's. And as long as you continue to choose to make your happiness dependent on things outside yourself, which you don't have control over, then any unhappiness you experience is your own. You only have yourself to blame. And as long as you continue to choose that and you suffer the unhappiness, I'm not interested in hearing about it because it's because of your choice. And you're coming here to this meeting. It's not doing you any good, and it's not doing anyone else good. And I thought about those words and how they might apply to my life, and it made a lot of sense. But what I didn't know was how to make the happiness dependent on things within. Well, about 10 years later, I was working in Detroit at that time. And I was working in the inner city area, and a lot of my patients had AIDS. Now, the thing about AIDS back then was that we didn't have the treatments we have today. You can take a few pills today, and you can pretty much suppress the virus to points that it can't be detected and live normal lives. But back then, it wasn't like that. The only thing we could do for them was to treat their opportunistic infections, and they're pretty devastating. And as time went on and the virus weakened their immune system, what would happen is that these opportunistic infections would occur more frequently and they'd be more severe until we couldn't successfully treat them anymore, and they would die. And at that time in my professional life, was probably the one was most marked by suffering and death. And as they got more ill, and I was working with them more closely, I started to see myself in them. And I was wondering how I would respond when that time comes and I'm in that amount of suffering and I'm about ready to give up my life. As time went on, and my search took me eventually to going to a Zen monastery and searching for answers about these questions I had about my own life and mortality. And at one of the meetings, or one of the talks, a senior monk had mentioned things about life, and he said that AIDS isn't the problem. Well, when I heard that, I was pretty irate. I had seen these people suffer. I'd seen it firsthand, and I was particularly angered by that. So later after the talk, I went up to him, and I said, how can you say that? And he said, oh, please don't misunderstand me. Well, I'm not saying that AIDS isn't a problem. I'm saying it isn't the problem. The problem overall, the ultimate, is that our fear of death. Our fears we create, and our fears we can uncreate. And until we deal with them, and until we answer them in a resolute way, we're always going to have the doorway open for unhappiness. With those words, it started to make a little more sense what Doris was talking about dealing with things inside. But I didn't know how to deal with the fears. What he said made sense, but I didn't know how to deal with the fears. Well, at the monastery, the abbot would say to everybody, he would say these phrases over and over again, and it applied to everyone. He said that we are perfect and complete, lacking nothing. All we could ever hope for, we already have. All we ever hope to be, we already are. Nothing can be added and nothing can be taken away. We never fail to cover the ground on which we stand. I didn't fully understand those words when he first talked about them, because I didn't feel perfect, I didn't feel complete. What I found out later was that we may not express this perfect or complete nature, but that's what we are. And I didn't feel like I had all that I wanted, and things I was working for. But he also said, don't believe this just because I say it, believe it because it's proven true to you. So as I continued with the monastery, and I practiced follow their meditation, I found that I was able to discontinue or bring down all the chatter and the talk in my mind and bring my mind into silence. And when I had done that, it was possible to just have my mind rest in a global, abiding awareness. And it was in that, surprisingly enough, there was a natural arising of a sense that everything's okay. I'm reminded of the words of St. Juliana of Norwich, where she said, all is well, all is well. All manners of things shall be well. And she realized that when she was in the process of dying. Along with that came a sense that there was nothing to lose, like the abbot had talked about. And along with that, the fears started to come down. And not only in meditation there was that sense, but it started to go out into the other parts of my life. And I began to understand what the senior monk was talking about, which enriched even more what Doris was talking about. There was a monk there, a female monk, that didn't have it easy at the monastery. She was older, she had a lot of medical problems. The physical layout of the monastery wasn't easy for her. The food's never been appetizing when I've been there, and the beds have never been comfortable. And you're always told what to do. But I was always amazed at how she was always happy. And I asked her how she was like that, what was her secret? And she said that she wasn't always like that. And I said, oh, what happened? What changed? And she said, well, I realized one day I can choose to be miserable or I can choose to be happy. I just choose to be happy. She later died, just as happy, I heard, as the day that I talked with her. And I would think if she was here right now, and there's anyone who doesn't think that that happiness is not something they deserve or that they can have, she would say, what are you choosing? I would like to end with a few quotes by a Christian mystic. He lived about 300 years ago in Spain, and before he died, he was tortured. And he said, if you want to arrive at having pleasure in everything, desire the pleasure of nothing. If you want to arrive at possessing everything, desire the pleasure of the possession of nothing. If you want to arrive at being everything, desire to be nothing. And if you want to arrive at knowing everything, desire to know nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And even though I don't get to see Dr. Williams much, whenever I do see him, his demeanor, his aura is just all about positivity and just peaceful. It's amazing. Our next presenter may be small in stature, but she possesses a giant heart for people and an even bigger passion for literacy. When she speaks, people listen, and you all are about to find out why. Please, let's welcome Mrs. Barrett, also known as Mrs. B.
It was a Monday, the Monday after the Super Bowl, to be exact, and there was a snowstorm. Schools were closed. Everyone was stuck inside. I was 2 hours away visiting a friend, and I was driving home. It took me about 4 hours to get home in this weather. As soon as I walked into the house, I saw my mom. She was putting her boots on, and I asked my mom what she was doing. And she said that she was going out to the shed to check on my brother. He and his wife had been arguing. She walked out. I was putting my things away. And then I heard the most awful sound I have ever heard in my entire life. I heard my mother scream my father's name. And in that one word, there was unspeakable terror and uncontrollable panic. I ran out to the shed as fast as I could. The snow was literally up to my waist. I stumbled, crawled, and when I finally got there, I stood in the doorway and I saw my brother. He had hung himself. My mother was screaming. She was begging me to help get him down. So I'm looking through shelves, opening up drawers. I couldn't find anything. Finally, I stood up on a table and I tried to lift my brother. And as he turned towards me, I noticed that his face was blue and that his tongue was hanging out of his mouth a little bit. And that is an image that haunts me till this day. My father finally made it back out to the shed and he used a pair of hedge clippers to cut him down. My mother was smacking my brother in the face, hitting his chest, yelling at him, "Jacob, breathe, please, Jacob, breathe." Finally, she looked at me and she said, "Jesse, make him breathe." So I started CPR. I honestly don't know for how long I did it, but at one point, I made eye contact with my father. I shook my head and he nodded. It was a silent agreement. We both knew that my brother was dead. My father then told me to take my mother into the house. I took my mother in, state troopers came, and they stayed with my father in the shed because my father didn't want to leave my brother alone. My dad watched his only son, his youngest son, be put in a body bag. My mother watched her child, her baby, carried from the shed to the driveway and put in a van in a body bag and carried away. Phone calls had to be made, and despite the weather, our home was flooded with people. That night, when I went to bed, I stopped in my brother's room, and my mother and my father were in his childhood bed, and they were holding on to each other, wrapped in just a nightmare, unspeakable grief. But in that moment, I knew that my parents would be the anchor for each other, and I knew that my sister and I would have to anchor both of them. The day of the wake, we were in the kitchen. My dad was polishing my brother's shoes. My brother always liked to dress up. He liked to look nice. So my dad was muttering that he needed the shoes to shine. My mom holds up two shirts, a blue one and a plaid one. She says, "Jesse, which one should we put him in?" I'm like, "Well, Mom, you can't use the blue one. It's gonna make him look bluer." In hindsight, it's absolutely ridiculous, but that's what I was thinking. And then I thought about my brother in that shirt, and all these memories came flooding back. And in that moment, I realized that that's all my brother was. He was just a memory. The day of the funeral, I gave his eulogy. After having the house full all week of our family, our friends, and what meant the most to my parents was the fact that my brother's friends were there, and they told us stories that we hadn't heard before. So on Sunday, the next day, the house was silent. The phone did not ring. The doorbell did not ring. And we realized that that nightmare we had been living all week was now our new reality. I was talking to one of my girlfriends, Nikki, she's my best friend, and she had seen something on YouTube, and it was a story about people who had survived suicide attempts by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And one man said that the millisecond his hands left the railing, the millisecond they left, he absolutely regretted his decision. He regretted it. So then I start thinking, okay, he regretted it, he survived. Did my brother regret it? Do other people have that regret? Because once you do that, you can't take it back. It's done. Why am I sharing this story with you? Holidays, horrible. My brother's birthday is Christmas Eve. And every Christmas Eve, my mother gets a birthday cake still, and we sing happy birthday to him. My father hates that we do this, but it's my mother's way of grieving. This isn't something you get over. It's something that you have to learn to cope with. So my message to all of you is this: you matter to someone. It does not matter if you are an inmate. It does not matter if you are administration. It does not matter if you are a civilian. It does not matter if you are security. It doesn't matter if you're a middle school student getting bullied or a teenager struggling with your sexuality. You matter to somebody. People love you. People care about you. And people value you. Value yourselves. Think. Don't do to your family what my brother did to ours. And I truly believe that had he known, he wouldn't have done it. Ask for help. Reach out to somebody. Talk to a friend. Talk to a coworker. Talk to an employee assistance program member. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no shame in asking for help. If anything, it shows courage and it shows bravery. Do not be the shadow in the room. Be the light in the room. People want you to live, so please choose to live. Thank you.
Ooh, wow. I feel like somebody cutting onions backstage or something. I felt that. Thank you, Ms. B. And in our youth program, we have a saying that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And as Ms. B perfectly said, we all matter to someone. Thank you again, Ms. B, for sharing that story. Our next presenters possess the true spirit of giving, exempling that wealth is not in what you can gain, but what you are, the giving of yourselves to others. Please, let's welcome Beth and Sukey Novogratz.
Hi, I'm Beth Novogratz.
And I'm Sukey Novogratz.
We're sister-in-laws, and we've been writing about and teaching meditation for more than 10 years. So today we're here to do a short meditation with everyone. How many people here have meditated before? So that's good. And anybody have a daily practice? Nice. And how many people are thought about meditation, maybe want to try it sometime in the future, or? Okay, well, we're going to do that now. So.
We don't have to wait for a perfect moment to meditate. We don't have to wait for perfect conditions. In fact, who would have thought TEDxAttica would be the perfect place to start a meditation practice? But it is. So I'm going to ask you to get comfortable in your seat and to close your eyes. And we're going to check in. I want you to feel your sit bones in your chair, the weight of your thighs, and your feet in your shoes, pressing into the floor. Keep your spine erect, but roll your shoulders back in a comfortable posture. And place your hands gently on your thighs. And let's check in. What's going on inside? What's coming up for you? What physical sensations, thoughts, emotions? I know for me, I'm feeling a little anxious, a little nervous, standing on a stage in front of a bunch of people I don't know. But that's okay. I can just observe it without judgment. I'm just having a very human experience. Now, we're going to do some deep belly breath work to prepare for meditation. And I'm going to ask you to breathe in through your nose and exhale out your mouth. And I'm going to demonstrate, because you can make a noise, and I don't want you to feel awkward when it happens. So breathing in through your nose and exhale out. And that sort of relaxes your tummy, gives you a soft stomach. And so it might be helpful to put your hands on your stomach. And we'll take 4 breaths together. We inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And one last time. Inhale and exhale.
Okay, so that wasn't the actual meditation. That was just the prep. But now we're going to do the meditation. And what we're going to do is Sukey is going to hit this meditation bowl and produce some beautiful sounds. And when you hear the sounds, just follow them with your ears until you can't hear them anymore. And from that point, just kind of follow your breath. It doesn't have to be deep, just regular inhale, exhale. And for those of you who haven't meditated before, what you'll notice is, I mean, this happens to everybody, but if you haven't done it, you probably haven't noticed it. There's going to be thoughts that are going to come sneaking in, other thoughts that are going to come bombarding you. And when that happens, you just notice them and you go back to your breath. And it'll happen again probably 2 seconds later. And you notice them and you go back to your breath. We're only going to do this for 3 or 4 minutes, so it's not scary amount of time. But it's enough time that we have this experience together and kind of bring us all into one space in another level. So close your eyes if you're comfortable, otherwise you can leave them open, either way. So gently open your eyes and smile.
So how do you feel? Nice? Well, I'm going to do a little check-in. And I certainly feel a lot more relaxed. I feel a lot more comfortable. And so what happened? I mean, when I came on stage, I wasn't lying when I said I was nervous. I mean, my amygdala, which is my fear center in my brain, was like on fire, fight or flight mode. I mean, there's like the red dot, I see friendly faces, and I'm a little nervous, like, get off stage. I was nervous. But after I did the deep belly breath work, my physiology all changed. Because getting that soft belly activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which releases your relaxation response. And from that place, I could then meditate. And I could sort of observe my fears, anxieties, and emotions without judgment. I could see it as passing weather. And we know now from MRI studies that just with 8 weeks of a dedicated meditation practice, you can change your brain. When you're meditating, you are actively shrinking your amygdala, your fear center of your brain, and you're creating gray matter in your prefrontal cortex, which is your grand master, where poetry lives, where science lives, where your better nature, and where joy and love lives. And so why is this great? It's great because I'm never going to be able to get rid of fear. In fact, we need that alarm. It's helpful. But now I have a way to shift my physiology, and I have meditation, which can prime my brain so that I can make better choices.
And part of the reason for that is because meditation gives you this incredible opportunity to kind of see how you operate, and how that all of us, until we start separating ourselves from it, really operate on these stories that are from our childhood, stories we've been told or tell ourselves about ourselves and how things have to be and how we are. And when you start meditating, you start the stories start falling apart. And you start seeing like, well, I don't actually have to be that person, or I don't have to act that way. And that doesn't actually serve me anymore. And so it gives you this incredible kind of superpower and a different way of walking in the world. And so when Sukey and I first kind of got into meditation, and we were curious but hesitant. You know, we didn't really believe the hype. But then once we started practicing every day, which was not hard, it's 15, 20 minutes a day. So it wasn't like this major life change. But once we did, we started realizing like, hey, this is insane and insanely powerful. And so we got a little born again about it because we wanted everyone we knew to, like, it's free, it's 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. It's not hard. Like, we just did it. It's really not hard. But it really is powerful and life-changing.
And you're all meditators now. So our wish for all of you is to keep it going. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome. Wow. I'm a meditator now. I would have never thought that. And I didn't even know, wasn't sure to clap or to snap my fingers. I didn't know what to do. But that was great. I can't remember the last time it was such quietness. And I'm not even talking externally, I mean internally. So that was great. Thank you. This next presenter is always looking to help individuals tap into their full potential. He is selfless in the giving of his time, gaining the respect of his fellow peers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Bruno Langevin.
I thought I was successful. After all, I raised 2 beautiful daughters. I traveled the world many times. I own 5 houses, 22 cars, not in the same time. I was married twice, not in the same time. Thank God for that one. I moved to the US to work at Fortune 500 companies, solving risk around the world, from wildfires in California, earthquakes in Italy, to a cyber attack at a well-known company that I cannot name. It's in Corning, New York. So yes, I was very successful solving risk for others. But when the allegation came, I lost faith. So much that without the help of my best friend telling me that I matter, standing by me when I was on the phone on the suicide hotline, I wouldn't be here today. But here I am, to talk to you about the impact of education from the point of view of a teacher aide and how it is affecting not only the students in this facility, but me in a positive and personal way. So yes, a lot of things happened in my life in the past 2 years, right? But none so satisfactory as the impact my contribution can make in helping others achieve success in education. Believe me, all that Fortune 500 experience in the past 20 years go down the drain pretty fast when compared to hearing from a student that I'm part of the reason why he finally passes his test and graduates, why he finally finds out that math is not so hard anymore, and that he mentioned me by name when writing to his mother. Although I have to say he doesn't use my real name. For some very strange reason, people call me Frenchie. The reality is, getting a high school equivalent diploma, it's hard to achieve for any adult. But it is especially hard in this environment. For many, because of peer pressure, bad past experiences, fear of being judged. School can be challenging without proper encouragement and support from within, from another inmate. That's where the aid part of my job comes to play. And that's why ultimately I don't consider it as a job at all, but rather as part of my own contribution back to society, back to this world, and as part of my own well-being as a person. In fact, I believe in that support so much, I've been investing part of my own paycheck back into an incentive reward system that we have been piloting this year in school with the help of the Attica Lifers organization, of which I'm a treasurer. It acknowledges the success in school, such as attendance, attitude, improving grades, all the way up to an official recognition during the Lifers annual banquet, where this year we celebrate the graduation of 27 inmates. Yes, indeed. Inmates recognizing inmate. It's priceless. So what's my reward in this? I'm so glad you're asking. Let me share with you 2 of the letters that I've received from students. Life-changing for me. I really want to thank you for the respect you gave me today, the understanding and the empathy, wisdom that you have for me. This brother used the word respect and understanding. I was helping him to count with his fingers. And yes, a brother, not a white guy, a black guy, not a sandwich or a hot dog or a French baguette. just a brother that needed help. We are brothers. I am eternally grateful for your invested time, energy, and interest in building others up rather than pull them down. My friend, you're not just another prisoner or number motivated by a spirit to survive. No, you were born to achieve something significantly other, greater than yourself. Sorry, every time it's it. May God continue to bless your giving heart, as kind as it can be. Bless you for the way you have brightened up so many days. So here I am, incarcerated in a maximum security facility. But it doesn't really matter. These matter. I found my calling. I'm successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. And I guess that last comment you just said to me was a compliment. He said I was doing pretty good and not bad for an American. So thanks, I guess. Our next presenters, we have another duo, and one of them is carrying the torch of a family legacy, and the other one is carving heads out. Let's welcome to the stage Mr. Arun Gandhi and Jonathon Jones.
Good afternoon. I met Jonathon Jones, where is he?
Right here.
In Groveland Prison many years ago. And when he came out on parole, I thought he would make a good teammate. He would represent the new age of nonviolence, while I represent the old age of nonviolence. So we're a team, and we go out and speak together. I want to invite you to partner up with the person sitting next to you. And I want one member of the partnership to make a tight fist and imagine that you have the world's most precious diamond in the fist. And I want the other member to open the fist. Now tell me honestly, how many of you asked the other person to open the fist? So you see how deep violence is within us. I merely asked you to open the fist, and you immediately become physical and try to pry open the fist. So my grandfather was right when he said that violence is very deeply rooted in us. We have built a whole culture of violence around us, a culture that is so deep within us, it has overtaken our entertainment, sports, religion, language, our relationships. Everything about us is violent. And that is why he said the only way we can achieve peace in this world is by becoming the change that we wish to see. If we don't change ourselves, if we don't look at our own weaknesses and transform them, we will never be able to bring peace in this world. We are all longing for peace, we all work for peace, but if we don't know what peace looks like, we are never going to achieve it. He taught me a lesson when I was 13 years old and had the privilege of living with him. he made me draw a genealogical tree of violence. He said the only way you can understand nonviolence is by first understanding violence itself. And he made me draw this family tree, just as we do a family tree with violence as the grandparent, and physical violence and passive violence as the two branches. And every day before I went to bed, I had to analyze and examine everything that I had experienced during the day and put them down on that tree. Things that I may have done to other people or people may have done to me, or things that I may have read about, whatever it was, all of that had to be analyzed and put on that tree. Now, physical violence is something that we understand and we know about because it hurts so much. It's all the physical manifestations of violence where we fight and kill and murder and rape and do all of these things using physical force. But passive violence is something that we don't recognize, we don't even know about it. Sometimes it's just become so deeply rooted within us that we don't even think of it as being violent. And the way I had to find out whether this is passive violence or not was to ask myself the simple question: if somebody were to do this to me, would I be hurt by it or would I be helped by it? And if I came to the conclusion that it would hurt me, then that would be passive violence. And that could take the form of anything: discrimination, oppression, suppression, wasting resources, throwing away perfectly good things that we do in our societies all the time. I read in the New York Times not long ago that we in the United States throw away $60 billion worth of food every year, goes into the garbage. And yet we have millions of people in our own country who go to bed hungry. Now that is a form of violence too. But we don't recognize that as being violence because we don't see the hurt it causes. So it's important for us to know about the passive violence that all of us commit. And that is why Grandfather made me draw this tree, which was a form of introspection. When I began doing this, I was amazed that within a few months I was able to fill up the whole wall in my room with acts of passive violence. The physical violence didn't grow very much, but the passive violence grew endlessly. And that's when Grandfather explained to me the connection between the two. That we commit passive violence all the time, every day, consciously and unconsciously, and that generates anger in the victim, and the victim then resorts to physical violence to get justice. So it is passive violence that fuels the fire of physical violence. So logically, if we want to put out that fire of physical violence, we have to cut off the fuel supply. And since the fuel supply comes from each one of us, we have to become the change we wish to see in the world. It's only through changing ourselves that we will be able to change society. And if we can change society, then we will be able to bring peace in this world. This led me to coming into the prison systems and going out into the world and planting these seeds of peace and nonviolence in the minds of people. And when I went to the first prison in Philadelphia, and this was way back in 1993, Hector Ayala was one of the inmates there. And the question he asked me, he said, "You want us to change, but society has already condemned us. they are never going to accept us as human beings. We can become saints and they will not accept us. So why should we change? And my response to him was that the day you start doing things to impress somebody, you are being very insincere. You got to change because you know that is the right thing to do. Whether anybody accepts you for it and appreciates it or not, you are going to change because that is the right thing to do. And that is what I like to tell people all the time, that change because you know that is the right thing, and that is what you want your life to be. You know, we have unconsciously given our lives to unknown people to determine what it's going to be. We allow ourselves to be provoked by somebody, and that provocation leads us to do things that we don't really want to do. So it's important for us to know all of these things and to transform ourselves and change ourselves so that we can make a difference in this world. That is the message I brought into the prison systems here. That is how I met Jonathon Jones, and he represents the change that I've been talking about. So I will let him now tell you about the change that took place in his life.
Thank you. Violence for me started in the household. I mean, I didn't want to get up in the morning to go to school, didn't want to do my chores, didn't want to come in the house when the street lights came on. I lied, I stole, and I would get whoopings. I took the violence I learned at home to the streets. On the streets, my violence escalated, and I committed violent crimes and got arrested. So as I stood in front of the judge, mother in the courtroom with me crying, I realized that those whoopings that she used to give me were meant to prevent this. I was sent upstate, prison, and then that's when the shift happened for me. The shift from violence to nonviolence. It was just a simple thought. I didn't want to be punched in the face no more, nor did I want to punch anybody in the face, because both hurt. So I made a decision to participate in the Alternative to Violence Project, AVP. And one of their core principles is transforming powers, transform a violent conflict to a nonviolent resolution. So I got transferred. Eventually, I ended up in Groveland Correctional Facility. At Groveland, I became an AVP facilitator and trainer. So during one of the workshops, I met a volunteer and facilitator named Shannon, and she told me about the Season for Nonviolence. And I was like, that's something that could be done in prison. So I discussed it with a friend of mine named Jules, and together we presented the idea to the administration. And two of the people are here today. She was the superintendent at the time, Superintendent Moya, and he was the DEPA programs at the time, DEPA programs Cronin. So they approved it. And then the men of Groveland Correctional Facility was inspired by the season, and they began to write essays and poems about nonviolence. They began to draw pictures, read books about nonviolence. They began to write songs, sing. Then they began to do the 64-day daily reflections for living nonviolently. So then I was like, man, this right here is amazing. They would raise money and give the money to organizations out in the streets fighting violence. In December of 2015, I was released from prison. So I took the nonviolence I learned in prison. Yeah, that's right, I learned nonviolence in prison. I took that to the streets with me. So then on the streets, about a couple of years later, around in 2015, Groveland asked me to come back in and talk about the season for nonviolence. So with Arun Gandhi, went back into Groveland. That right there was amazing. Coming back into prison I had just got released from to talk to the men about the season of nonviolence. And some of the men that when I went home, were still there. And I was like, wow, this is amazing for me. But it was more amazing after spending a couple hours at Groveland to be able to leave the same day. That was even more amazing. So then after that, Attica asked, could you come into Attica and talk about the season of nonviolence? And then Auburn asked, could you come into Auburn and talk about the season of nonviolence? And just like the men of Groveland, the men of Attica and Auburn were touched by the power of nonviolence, right? They were touched also. So a couple of, soon after I got released, I eventually started working. So I was driving a van one day and coming out of the parking lot, going to another work site. So as I pulled into the street I'm driving, a car shoots past me, and then it comes in front of me. I didn't think nothing of it. Then the car slows down, I slow down. And then the car stopped, and I smashed on my brakes, but I still hit the back of the car. I was like, wow. But then the car drove off, and then it pulled up in the parking lot. So I just kept going. I said, all right, whatever, I just kept going. I wanted to get to my work site, but I noticed that the car was following me. So as I pulled up in front of my work site, car pulled up, I jumped out the car like, what's going on? He said, yo, don't you know you cut me off? I said, hey, man, I don't think I cut you off, but you know what? I apologize. And he looked at me, he paused, and he was like, all right. And then he just drove off. And in that moment, I chose to be nonviolent. I value my ability to make decisions today. I value my ability to choose today. I'm not going to let circumstances dictate how I respond in situations. I choose to be nonviolent. And there's one other thing I learned from that incident also. I learned the power of a well-timed, deep breath. So much could happen when you take a deep breath and you start connecting with that nonviolent side in you. Thank you.
Thank you again, gentlemen. And peace is an important component to a healthy living. Something I have realized within myself is once I found peace on the inside, it manifested itself on the outside. Our next presenters, they're kind of like two peas in a pod. Or maybe like Michael and Scotty. Or Batman and Robin. And I'll let you guys figure out who's who. But these guys bring great energy and they provoke amazing thought. I'm extremely proud of these guys because they made great strides since entering prison. And let's welcome to the stage my guys, Jordan Williams and Lazarus Clyburn.
Yo, peace, Laz. What's going on with you, man?
I'm blessed, bro. How you, man? What you think about this TEDx event, man?
It's all right. I like the theme of healthy living and everything, but change is constant. Growth is optional.
I understand that, but I think nothing changes if nothing changes, bro.
What? Nah, nothing happens if nothing happens.
Huh?
Nothing happens if nothing happens, so look at here.
Wait, nothing changes if nothing changes, so listen here.
Nah, nothing happens if nothing happens, so look at here.
I said nothing changes if nothing changes, so listen here.
Whatever, nothing happens if nothing happens, so look at here. Was used to trapping a little macking but shifting gears. Now the aim is rearranging, pursuing better years. Claiming greatness, open the door, Kramer, I'm prepared. No knowledge is worth keeping, so you better beware. And all this knowledge that we speaking is best to be shared. Show of hands, how many y'all learn something? Hey, with all this knowledge, your brain don't want for nothing. Come on, healthy living, healthy lifestyle. Change is coming. All aboard for this trip, y'all. The train is coming. You bored? You sick? Must be insane or something. Time to soar, get equipped. Come on, let's aim for something, cuz nothing happens if nothing happens, so look at it.
Wait, nothing changes if nothing changes, so listen here.
Whatever, nothing happens if nothing happens, so look at here.
I believe nothing changes if nothing changes, so listen here.
Tell me.
Nothing changes if nothing changes, so listen up.
Okay.
Let's make a difference on your feet, don't be a sitting duck. We on the mission, take a leap, it's time to switch it up. Catch what I'm pitching, this is deep, it ain't no giving up.
Yeah.
So take action, work on what you lacking. Be ready to respond, step up from reacting. When you react, it's on impulse. To respond, you gotta think about it. It starts as a dream, you better believe you can be about it. Not easy as it seems, you can achieve if you plant the seed. Dreams can come true, just remember, if you want to succeed, that
Nothing changes if nothing happens, I hear you clear.
yeah, nothing happens if nothing changes, I see it clear.
Come on, nothing happens if nothing happens, so listen here.
Yeah,
Nothing changes if nothing changes, so come on. Nothing
Listen.
happens if nothing
It
happens.
starts with you.
Nothing changes
Take
if
that
nothing
step.
changes.
Apply yourself,
Nothing happens if nothing happens.
cause nothing happens
Nothing changes
if
if
nothing
nothing changes. Nothing happens if nothing happens, so listen here, come on.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Yeah.
Nothing happens if nothing happens. Yeah.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Yeah.
Great job. I wish I could sing or rap because I would have joined in with them. But of course we couldn't be in New York and not have a rap song. It only made sense. But for a moment, can I get the Attica organizing team to come on stage, please? We have a special presentation. Well, we have a gift that we would like to give to someone, and words cannot describe how much she means to all of us right here. She's fearless, and she has a true passion and love for people. Meeting her, I believe, transformed all of our lives, and she has left an input in our hearts that we will never, ever forget. To her family, thank you for entrusting her to come in here and hang out with some convicted guys. But I think we was more scared of her than she was of us. But we want to present this beer. Somebody want to open it up? To Delia Cohen. Come on up here, Delia. Standing on inflation. She put this whole event together. Delia. Thank you. Great job. Beautiful. You deserve it. You deserve it. She had the bright idea to come to Attica and bring TEDx here. Thank you for the support of everyone else, but it was her idea. So thanks again, Delia. We appreciate you so much. Good. Yep, we good. Thank you, fellas. Cool. And that was done by our knitting squad. We had guys that Glazer spoke about earlier on that does knitting, and they hand knitted that for her. Yeah. Well, time flies by when you're having a great time. And unfortunately, we have run out of time, believe it or not. I know we can be here all day. Being here today, words cannot describe what it has meant to me. I'm sure many people may have thought today's event would be impossible, but standing together, being together, has created this moment that we will all remember for the rest of our lives. Today, marks a new day in this facility, new memories, possibilities that are endless. But what's greater is that our theme for today, Healthy Living, gave true context for the need of today's event. Take the word healthy. The first 4 letters spell what? Heal. Today, stereotypes were disproven, amazing ideas were shared, and walls became bridges, creating an atmosphere for healing. Healing we all were so desperately in need of, but none more than the town, village, and facility of Attica. Like them, I understand how it feels to be judged and labeled based on your past. But the past is just that, your past. It is merely a stop along a journey, not the final destination of it. Attica is often referred to as having a dark cloud over it. Yet dark clouds only indicate that rain is on the way. And rain provides nourishment, it replenishes, and ultimately it brings life. And after any good downpour, the sun is sure to shine. Today, I get the privilege of being a meteorologist. And the forecast reads, clear skies, 80-degree temperatures, and a 5-mile-per-hour southwesterly breeze. Things are looking awesome for Attica. Al Volker and all the meteorologists, I'm coming for your job too. Be ready. But in closing, Margaret Mead once said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's all that ever has. Again, I am so honored and privileged to have stood in front of every one of you today, to have stood on this red carpet. I'll remember this for the rest of my life, and I'm so humbled and appreciative for this opportunity. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. So for our final words, this individual is an innovator, and he has a unique and amazing ability of blending spirit with the letter of correction law. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Acting Commissioner, Anthony Annucci. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible day. You know, if the goal of TEDxAttica was to break down barriers, was to motivate people, was to inspire people, was to really get people to think differently, then to borrow a sports analogy, you really hit it out of the park. And please give everybody a round of applause. To everybody that worked on this, it was so obvious to all of us in the audience that heard this for the first time that you really poured your hearts and your souls into this. The speeches that were made, you spoke from the heart, and everybody listened intently. I mean, just absolutely moving profoundly. This is the second time I've come to this facility in the last 10 months for something truly historic. Obviously, this is historic today. 10 months ago in December, I was here for an historic experience as well. We had 2 of the actors still living from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And they came here, and they first showed the movie earlier to the population, and then they met with them to talk about the significance of that movie and to meet with the population and to tell how it was filmed. These were the actress and actor who played the children of George Bailey, Jimmy Stewart, in the movie. And the theme of that movie is very relevant to everybody in the world today, and there is a parallel to today. Obviously, you know the story, Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey. He was always disappointed in life and had a lot of issues, basically happy until everything seemed to come crashing down, and he was going to take his own life. And an angel intervenes and gets him to see the world, what it would be like if he had never been born, right? And the basic theme of that was every man's life matters. Every person touches so many other lives, and that if they hadn't been born, it would be such a void created. And so that was a theme that sounded throughout today, right? That everybody is important. Now today, we created an environment where whatever your title is, whatever your role is, you matter. And the messages were so profound. It was just really inspiring to me to see this. It's inspiring to my staff to see this. And I just credit everybody. The staff at Attica, everybody that worked so hard to put this together, the outside volunteers, the speakers, every one of them was fantastic. I do have to mention for Arun Gandhi that in last week's New York Times, they did an article about your grandfather. It would have been his 150th birthday last week. So isn't that wonderful? Not only is his message more relevant, needed now more than ever, but obviously really important, meaningful people were born in October. I'm just saying, folks. Again, just such a delight to be here and be part of this, and really thank all the staff. You know, all of what we do in corrections, in many ways, is to try to put a human face on the incarcerated individual. And the messages that you delivered today will be heard and seen by untold thousands of people. They will see what really happens behind the walls of a correctional facility, not just for the incarcerated individual, but also the staff that make these kinds of events happen. Because the make-believe stories on TV about prisons, that's not reality. This is reality, what you saw today, and it was possible because we built a community of different people to come together. And when you take people and you put them in the same physical setting, and they listen, and they think, and they come away with a different perspective, and they all recognize that each and every one of us is human with our strengths and weaknesses, but most of all, a human being to be valued. That message was delivered loud and clear today. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful day. Really enjoyable. Thank you.